Welcome back to Quarter Dollar. What if I told you that 5 ordinary-looking Lincoln Wheat Pennies could be worth more than your house, your car, and maybe even your entire retirement fund combined? I am talking about pennies that look dirty, worn out, and completely worthless at first glance, but are actually hiding values that will absolutely blow your mind. Today we are counting down the top 5 Lincoln Wheat Pennies that are worth a small fortune, and trust me, by the time we get to number 1, you will be racing to check every single penny in your possession. These are not fairy tales. These are real coins that have sold for jaw-dropping amounts at major auctions, and the best part is they could still be hiding in your change jar, your old piggy bank, or even that coffee can in your garage. Before we dive into these incredible coins, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on discovering which coins could change your financial future forever. Let's get started. Coming in at number 5 on our countdown is a coin that millions of Americans handled during World War II without ever realizing what they were holding. This is the 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny. And before you think this is just another ordinary penny, let me tell you why collectors are paying absolutely insane amounts of money for this exact coin. Now take a close look at this beauty right here. You can see the date 1942 stamped clearly on the right side and that iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner staring back at us. The words "In God We Trust" arc beautifully across the top, and the word "Liberty" sits proudly on the left side. This coin has that warm golden brown patina that comes from decades of honest circulation, and that is exactly what makes it so special. This is not some shiny proof coin locked away in a vault. This is a real piece of American history that actually circulated through the hands of our parents and grandparents during one of the most critical moments in world history. Flip it over and you will see those beautiful wheat stalks flanking both sides, the words 1 cent in the center and E pluribus unum curving along the top with the United States of America along the bottom. This reverse design is why collectors call these wheat pennies, and it is one of the most beloved designs in American coinage history. Now, here is where things get absolutely mind-blowing. In 1942, the United States Mint was working overtime because of the war effort. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 657 million of these pennies. The Denver Mint produced over 206 million, and the San Francisco Mint made about 85 million. You would think with those massive numbers that these coins would be worthless, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. The coin you are looking at right here, even in this circulated condition with honest wear, is worth far more than 1 cent. A 1942 penny in good circulated condition like this one can fetch anywhere from 10 cents to several dollars depending on the exact grade. But wait, it gets so much better. If you find one of these in uncirculated condition, meaning it never saw the inside of a cash register or someone's pocket, you are looking at values ranging from $50 all the way up to $145 for a standard Philadelphia Mint penny. The Denver Mint version can hit $15 or more in uncirculated condition, and the San Francisco Mint penny, the rarest of the three, can explode past $2,000 in pristine, uncirculated condition. But here is where your jaw is going to hit the floor. There are error versions of the 1942 penny that collectors are absolutely desperate to find. The double die obverse error, where the words "In God We Trust" or other design elements were struck twice, creating a visible doubling effect, can be worth $50 to $200 or more, depending on how dramatic the doubling is in the overall condition. Repunched mint mark errors, where the D or S mint mark was stamped more than once, can bring $10 to $50. Off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly aligned when it was struck, can fetch $25 to $200, depending on how far off-center it is and whether the date is still visible. And if you find a 1942 penny with die cracks or die cuts, those raised lumps or line caused by a damaged die, you could be holding $75 or more in your hand. The absolute holy grail specimens, those 1942 pennies graded MS-68 in full, red uncirculated condition, have sold at major auctions for nearly $4,000 for the Philadelphia version and over $12,000 $1,000 for the Denver and San Francisco versions. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny worth 1 cent in 1942 is now worth more than a decent used car. That is the power of rarity, condition, and collector demand all coming together in one spectacular package. So the next time you are going through old coins, do not just glance at that 1942 date and toss it aside. Look closely at the mint mark, examine the details for any doubling or errors, and check the overall condition because you might just be holding a small fortune in the palm of your hand. Moving on to number 4, and folks, this is where things start getting really serious. We are looking at the 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this coin right here tells an incredible story that most Americans have completely forgotten. Look at this specimen closely. You can see that date, 1946, stamped clearly on the obverse, and even though this penny has seen some honest circulation, you can still make out every important detail. Lincoln's profile is still strong and dignified. The word liberty is clearly visible on the left, and In God We Trust arcs beautifully across the top. This coin has that gorgeous chocolate brown patina that serious collectors absolutely love because it proves authenticity and age. There is some light wear on the high points of Lincoln's cheek and jaw, which is completely normal for a coin that actually circulated through the American economy for decades, but the overall detail preservation is remarkable. When you flip this beauty over, those iconic wheat stalks are still sharp and well-defined. The words 1 cent stand proud in the center, and you can clearly read United States of America along the bottom rim with E pluribus unum curving along the top. Now, let me tell you why 1946 is such a special year for Lincoln pennies and why collectors are going absolutely crazy trying to find them. This was the first full year of peace after World War II ended. American soldiers were coming home, the economy was booming, and the United States Mint was cranking out pennies like never before to meet the demand of a nation celebrating victory and rebuilding. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 991 million pennies that year. The Denver Mint struck about 315 million, and the San Francisco Mint made roughly 198 million. With numbers that massive, you would think these coins would be common as dirt and worth absolutely nothing, right? Think again. The coin market does not work that way, and here is why. Out of those nearly 1.5 billion pennies minted in 1946, the vast majority were spent, lost, thrown away, or melted down over the decades. Very few people back then thought to save pennies in pristine condition because they were just everyday pocket change. And that means finding a 1946 penny in truly uncirculated condition today is like finding a needle in a haystack. And when you do find one, the values are absolutely staggering. A circulated 1946 penny like the one you are looking at right here in good to fine condition is worth anywhere from 10 cents to 35 cents depending on how much detail remains. Not bad for a penny, but wait until you hear what happens when the condition improves. An extremely fine example with most of the original detail intact can fetch 50 cents to $1. A 1946 penny in about uncirculated condition, meaning it barely circulated at all and still has most of its original mint luster, can be worth $2 to $5. But here's where your eyes are going to pop out of your head. A fully uncirculated 1946 penny with no wear whatsoever. And beautiful original red or red-brown color can sell for $10 to $35 for a Philadelphia Mint coin, $15 to $45 for a Denver Mint coin, and $20 to $60 for the scarcer San Francisco Mint version. And those are just the baseline uncirculated values. When you start talking about high-grade specimens certified by professional grading services, the prices go through the roof. A 1946 penny, graded MS66 or MS67 in full red condition can bring $150 to $400 at auction. MS67 plus examples have sold for over $1,200. And the absolute finest known specimens of those incredibly rare MS68 full red coins have hammered for over $8,500 at major numismatic auctions. But hold on, because we are not done yet. There are error varieties of the 1940 that can make your head spin with their values. The 1946 double die obverse error, where you can see doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust, can be worth $75 to $300 or more, depending on the strength of the doubling and overall condition. Repunched mint mark varieties, especially on the Denver and San Francisco coins, can add $15 to $100 to the value. Off-center strikes can fetch $50 to $400 depending on how dramatic the misalignment is. Die cracks and die cuts can add $25 to $150. And if you are lucky enough to find a 1946 penny struck on a wrong planche, like a silver dime planche or a foreign coin blank, you could be holding a five-figure treasure. One such error sold at auction for over $18,000. Yes, $18,000 for a single penny. That is not a typo. That is the reality of the rare coin market when condition, rarity, and collector demand all align perfectly. So before you dismiss that 1946 penny as just another old coin, take a closer look. Check for that mint mark under the date. Examine the details for any doubling or unusual characteristics. And whatever you do, do not spend it or toss it in a jar and forget about it. Now, we are climbing into number 3 territory, and folks, when you see this date, you need to stop everything you are doing and pay very close attention. This is the 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and what you are looking at right here is a coin that has survived nearly 90 years of American history. Look at the specimen carefully. Even though this penny has clearly been through decades of honest circulation and shows that beautiful reddish-brown patina that comes with age, you can still clearly see that critical date, 1937, stamped on the right side of the obverse. Lincoln's profile is still remarkably well preserved, considering this coin has been handled by countless Americans over the generations. You can make out the word liberty on the left side, and if you look closely at the top, you can still read, "In God we trust," arcing across. There is honest wear on the high points of Lincoln's hair, cheek, and shoulder, which tells us this coin actually circulated through the economy, doing the job it was designed to do, but the overall detail retention is impressive. The rim is still strong and well-defined, which is crucial for determining value. Now flip this beauty over and take a look at that reverse. Those iconic wheat stalks are still clearly visible, flanking both sides. The words 1 cent stand bold in the center, and you can read United States of America along the bottom with E pluribus unum curving along the top. This reverse design is what gives these coins their beloved wheat penny nickname, and it is a design that collectors have cherished for generations. Now, let me tell you why 1937 is such an incredibly important year for Lincoln Wheat Pennies and why serious collectors are willing to pay absolutely shocking amounts of money to own them. The year 1937 was right in the middle of the Great Depression, a time when every single penny truly mattered to American families. The Philadelphia Mint produced about 309 million pennies that year. The Denver Mint struck roughly 50 million, and the San Francisco Mint made approximately 34 million. Now, here is the fascinating part. Even though over 390 million pennies were minted in 1937, finding them in high-grade condition today is extraordinarily difficult. Why? Because during the Depression, people did not save pennies as collectibles. They spent every single cent they had just to survive. Pennies were used to buy bread, milk, and other necessities. They were handled, worn down, lost, and eventually discarded. That means the survival rate of high-grade 1937 pennies is shockingly low, and when one does surface in exceptional condition, collectors go absolutely wild trying to acquire it. A circulated 1937 penny like this one you are looking at in good to very good condition is worth anywhere from 15 cents to 50 cents, depending on how much detail remains visible. That might not sound like much, but remember, this is a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, an extremely fine example with sharp details and minimal wear can fetch 75 cents to $2. A 1937 penny in about uncirculated condition, meaning it barely saw any circulation and still retains much of its original mint luster, can be worth $3 to $8 for a Philadelphia Mint coin, $5 to $12 for a Denver Mint coin, and $6 to $15 for the scarcer San Francisco version. But now, we are getting to the part where your jaw is going to drop. A fully uncirculated 1937 penny with no wear whatsoever and beautiful original red or red-brown color can sell for $12 to $45 for a Philadelphia Mint coin, $20 to $75 for a Denver mint coin, and $25 to $95 for a San Francisco mint coin. And those are just the starting points for uncirculated examples. When you start talking about professionally graded high-end specimens, the values explode into the stratosphere. A 1937 penny graded MS-65 in full red condition can bring $100 to $250. MS-66 examples have sold for $300 to $800. S67 specimens, which are incredibly rare, have hammered for $1,500 to $4,500 at major auctions, and the absolute finest known examples, those museum quality MS-68 full red coins, have sold for over $25,000. Yes, $25,000 for a single penny from 1937. But wait, because we are not finished yet, there are error varieties of the 1937 penny that can make even experienced collectors gasp when they discover them. The 1937 doubled die obverse error, where you can see clear doubling on the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust, can be worth $100 to $500 or more, depending on how dramatic the doubling is and the overall condition of the coin. Repunched mint mark varieties, especially on the Denver and San Francisco coins, where the D or S was stamped multiple times, can add $25 to $200 to the value. Off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned because the planche was not properly positioned when struck, can fetch $75 to $600, depending on how far off-center it is. And we have reached number 2 on our countdown. And folks, when you see this date, you need to understand that you are looking at one of the most historically significant and valuable Lincoln Wheat Pennies ever minted. This is the 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and what makes this coin so incredibly special is not just its age, but the story it tells and the shocking values it commands in today's market. And take a close look at this specimen right here. Even though this penny has clearly circulated through the American economy for nearly 90 years, you can still see that critical date, 1935, stamped clearly on the right side of the obverse. The detailed preservation on this coin is actually quite remarkable considering its age and the fact that it was used as everyday pocket change during one of the most difficult periods in American history. Lincoln's profile is still well defined, showing his distinctive features including his beard, his strong jawline, and the details of his coat and bow tie. The word Liberty is clearly visible on the left side, and if you look at the top of the coin, you can still read In God We Trust arcing across, though there is some honest wear on the highest points of the letters. The rim is strong and well preserved, which is crucial for determining grade and value. This coin has that beautiful golden brown patina that comes from decades of natural aging, and serious collectors absolutely love this color because it proves the coin has not been cleaned or artificially altered. Now flip this beauty over and look at that reverse design. Those iconic wheat stalks are still beautifully detailed, flanking both sides of the coin, with individual grain kernels still visible. The words 1 cent stand bold and proud in the center, and you can clearly read E pluribus unum curving along the top with the United States of America along the bottom. There is some light wear on the wheat stalks themselves, which is completely normal for a coin that actually circulated, but the overall design integrity is impressive. This is a coin that has survived nearly 9 decades of American history, passing through countless hands, and it still retains enough detail to tell its story. Now, let me explain why 1935 is such an extraordinarily important year for Lincoln Wheat Pennies and why collectors are willing to pay absolutely mind-blowing amounts of money to own them. The year 1935 was right in the heart of the Great Depression. Unemployment was still devastating. Families were struggling to put food on the table, and every single penny had real purchasing power. A penny in 1935 could buy you a piece of candy, a newspaper, or contribute to a loaf of bread. People were not thinking about saving coins as collectibles. They were thinking about survival. The Philadelphia Mint produced about 245 million pennies in 1935. The Denver Mint struck roughly 47 million, and the San Francisco Mint made approximately 38 million. Now, here is the critical point that most people miss. Even though over 330 million pennies were minted in 1935, the survival rate of high-grade examples is shockingly low. Why? Because these coins were used hard. They circulated heavily, they got worn down, they got lost, and Very few people had the luxury of setting aside pristine examples for future generations, and that means finding a 1935 penny in exceptional condition today is extraordinarily rare. And when one does surface, collectors engage in fierce bidding wars to acquire it. A circulated 1935 penny like this one you are looking at in good to very good condition with honest wear is worth anywhere from 20 cents to 60 cents, depending on how much detail remains visible. That is already 60 times its face value, but we are just getting started. An extremely fine example with sharp details and minimal wear can fetch $1 to $3. A 1935 penny in about uncirculated condition, meaning it barely saw any circulation and still retains much of its original mint luster, can be worth $4 to $10 for a Philadelphia mint coin, $8 to $18 for a Denver mint coin, and $10 to $22 for the scarcer San Francisco version. But now hold on to your seat, because here is where the values become absolutely staggering. A fully uncirculated 1935 penny with no wear whatsoever and beautiful original red or red-brown color can sell for $15 to $55 for a Philadelphia mint coin, $25 to $95 for a Denver mint coin, and $35 to $125 for a San Francisco mint coin. And those are just the baseline values for standard, uncirculated examples. When you start talking about professionally graded high-end specimens certified by PCGS or NGC, the values explode into territory that will make your head spin. A 1935 penny-graded MS65 in full red condition can bring $150 to $400 at auction. Hadisai MS66 examples have sold for $500 to $1,500. MS67 specimens, which are incredibly rare and highly sought after, have hammered for $2,500 to $8,000. In the absence of us. And we have finally arrived at number one, the absolute crown jewel of our countdown. And folks, if you have been paying attention up until now, you know that what I'm about to show you is going to blow your mind. This is the 1923 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this coin right here represents one of the most historically significant and potentially valuable pennies you could ever hope to find in circulation or in an old collection. Take a very close look at this specimen. Even though this penny has clearly been through a century of American history and shows that beautiful golden brown patina that comes from honest age and circulation, you can still clearly see that critical date 1923 stamped on the right side of the obverse. Lincoln's profile is still remarkably well preserved for a coin that is over 100 years old. You can make out the details of his beard, his distinctive facial features, and the folds of his coat and bow tie. The word Liberty is visible on the left side, and In God We Trust arcs across the top, though there is honest wear on the highest points, which tells us this coin actually circulated through the American economy doing the job it was designed to do. The rim is strong and well-defined, which is absolutely crucial for determining grade and value. This coin has not been cleaned or artificially altered, and that natural patina is exactly what serious collectors want to see because it proves authenticity. Then now flip this beauty over and look at that reverse design. Those iconic wheat stalks are still clearly visible flanking both sides. The words 1 cent stand bold in the center, and you can read United States of America along the bottom with E pluribus unum curving along the top. There is some light wear on the wheat stalks themselves, which is completely normal for a coin that has survived for over a century, but the overall design integrity is impressive. This is a coin that has passed through countless hands, witnessed an entire century of American history, and it still retains enough detail to tell its incredible story. Now let me explain why 1923 is such an extraordinarily important year for Lincoln Wheat Pennies and why collectors are willing to pay absolutely astronomical amounts of money to own them. The year 1923 was a fascinating time in American history. The country was in the roaring 20s, an era of economic prosperity, cultural change, and optimism after the devastation of World War I. Jazz was exploding, the automobile was transforming American life, and the economy was booming. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 74,723,000 pennies in 1923, which sounds like a massive number. But here is what makes 1923 so special. The Denver Mint did not produce any pennies that year because they suspended penny production to focus on striking gold and silver coins. And that means only two mints produced pennies in 1923, Philadelphia and San Francisco. The San Francisco Mint struck only about 8,700,000 pennies that year, making the 1923 S one of the scarcest Lincoln Wheat Pennies of the entire 1920s decade. Now, here's the critical point that most people completely miss. Even though over 74 million Philadelphia pennies were minted in 1923, the survival rate of high-grade examples is shockingly low. Why? Because these coins circulated heavily for decades. They were used to buy newspapers, candy, bread, and countless other everyday items. Very few people in 1923 thought to save brand new pennies in pristine condition for future generations. That means finding a 1923 penny in exceptional, uncirculated condition today is extraordinarily rare. And when one does surface, collectors engage in fierce bidding wars to acquire it. A circulated 1923 penny like this one you are looking at, in good to very good condition with honest wear, is worth anywhere from 50 cents to $1, depending on how much detail remains visible. That is already 100 times its face value, but we are just getting started. An extremely fine example with sharp details and minimal wear can fetch $1 to $5. A 1923 penny in about uncirculated condition, meaning it barely saw any circulation and still retains much of its original mint luster, can be worth $5 to $15 for a Philadelphia mint coin. But now hold on to your seat, because here is where the values become absolutely mind-blowing. A fully uncirculated 1923 Philadelphia penny with no wear whatsoever and beautiful original red or red-brown color can sell for $25 to $75 for standard uncirculated examples. But when you start talking about professionally graded high-end specimens certified by PCGS or NGC, the values explode into territory that will make your jaw drop. A 1923 penny graded MS65 in full, red condition can bring $150 to $500 at auction. MS66 examples have sold for $600 to $1,200. MS67 specimens, which are incredibly rare and highly sought after, have hammered for $871 to $2,500. And the absolute finest